Marina thought the homeless man she fed 5 years ago was just another forgotten soul on the streets. She never imagined that one simple act of kindness would bind their fates forever. When a masked intruder broke into her home on a stormy night, ready to end her life, it was that same man who appeared like a guardian angel to save her. But the truth he revealed would shatter everything she believed about her family, her past, and the brother they told her was dead. It was a freezing December evening in 2019 when Marina first saw him. She was leaving her favorite coffee shop after another exhausting 12-hour shift at the hospital. Her nurse scrubs still damp with the stress of saving lives. That est, when she noticed the figure huddled against the brick wall in the alley, a man wrapped in torn blankets, his face hidden beneath layers of grime and despair. Something about his posture struck her heart. While other pedestrians hurried past, avoiding eye contact, Marina found herself stopping. She returned to the coffee shop and bought 2 sandwiches, a hot soup, and a steaming cup of coffee. When she approached him, his eyes startlingly blue beneath the dirt, looked up at her with a mixture of surprise and suspicion. "I'm not asking for anything in return," Marina said gently, setting the food beside him. "Everyone deserves a warm meal." The man's voice was barely a whisper when he finally spoke. "Thank you." But there was something in his tone, something familiar that made Marina's heart skip a beat. She brushed off the strange feeling and walked away, never looking back. That became Marina's routine for weeks. Every Tuesday and Friday, she'd bring food to the alley. Sometimes he was there, sometimes he wasn't, but she never stopped trying. They rarely spoke, but she noticed small things about him. How he always said thank you in that same haunting whisper, how his hands shook not just from cold, but from something deeper, and how his eyes seemed to follow her with an intensity that felt almost protective. After 3 months, he vanished. Marina continued checking the alley for weeks, but he was gone. She never saw him again, and eventually, life moved forward. She got promoted at the hospital, bought a small house in the suburbs, and tried to forget about the mysterious man who had touched her heart so briefly. 5 years passed. Marina, now 32, had built a successful career and a comfortable life. She lived alone in her cozy 2-story house, surrounded by the peace she'd worked so hard to achieve. But that peace came with a price. She'd grown distant from her family, especially after the painful memories of her childhood that she'd never quite processed. Marina had always been told that her older brother David had died in a car accident when she was just 8 years old. Her parents had moved the family across the country shortly after, claiming they needed a fresh start, away from all the painful reminders. Whenever Marina asked questions about David, wanting to see photos, visit his grave, or hear stories about him, her parents would become uncomfortable and change the subject. "Some wounds are too deep to keep reopening," her mother would say, tears in her eyes. "David is at peace now. We need to focus on the family we still have." Marina had learned to stop asking, but the questions never fully went away. There was always a hollow space in her heart where her brother's memory should have been, filled only with fragments of childhood dreams and the vague recollection of someone who used to read her bedtime stories. On the night that would change everything, Marina was alone in her house during one of the worst storms of the year. Rain hammered against the windows like angry fists, and the power had been flickering on and off all evening. She was curled up on her couch, reading a medical journal by candlelight. When she heard the unmistakable sound of her back door being forced open, her blood turned to ice. Marina grabbed her phone to call 911, but the cell towers were down due to the storm. She was completely alone, trapped in her own home with an intruder who was now moving through her kitchen. Heavy footsteps approached the living room, and Marina's heart pounded so loudly she was sure the intruder could hear it.
Hey.
A man appeared in the doorway, tall, wearing a black mask and holding a knife that gleamed in the candlelight. His voice was cold and calculated. "Where do you keep your jewelry? Your cash?" Marina's hands trembled as she pointed toward the stairs. "Upstairs, in my bedroom dresser. Please, just take whatever you want and leave." But the intruder stepped closer, and something in his posture told Marina that robbery wasn't his only intention. "You live here all alone, don't you, pretty nurse?" His voice carried a menace that made her skin crawl. "No one's coming to save you tonight." Just as Marina thought her life was about to end, the front door exploded open with a force that shook the entire house. Through the storm and darkness, a figure emerged like something from a dream. Tall, broad-shouldered, moving with purpose and fury that filled the room. Marina's savior wore clean clothes now. His hair was trimmed, his face was shaved, but those eyes, those piercing blue eyes, were unmistakable. It was him, the homeless man from the alley. What happened next unfolded in seconds, but felt like hours. The intruder spun around, knife raised, but Marina's guardian was faster, stronger, and fighting with the desperation of someone protecting the most precious thing in the world. The fight was swift and brutal. Within moments, the intruder was unconscious on Marina's living room floor. Marina sat frozen in shock as her rescuer called the police on a phone that actually worked, then secured the intruder with zip ties he'd somehow brought with him. But the most shocking moment came when he turned to face her fully, his blue eyes now clear and focused, in a way that sent memories flooding back through her mind like a dam had burst. "Marina," he said, and his voice was no longer the broken whisper of a homeless man. It was strong, warm, and achingly familiar. "It's me, it's David." The room spun around her. This couldn't be possible. David was dead. Her family had grieved him. They'd moved across the country to escape the pain of losing him. But as she looked into those eyes, the same eyes that had read her stories before bed, that had comforted her after nightmares, that had made her feel safe when she was little, Marina knew with absolute certainty that she was looking at her brother. "They told me you were dead," she whispered, her voice breaking. David's face crumpled with pain. "They told me you all moved on and forgot about me. They made me believe I was dead to this family." His voice shook with years of suppressed anguish. "Marina, they didn't abandon me because I died. They abandoned me because I got addicted to drugs when I was 17. Instead of helping me, they cut me off completely and told everyone I was dead. I've been homeless, struggling, watching you from afar for years, making sure you were safe, but too ashamed to approach you." The police arrived to find Marina and David holding each other. 5 years of separation and a lifetime of lies finally crumbling between them. David had been living in a halfway house for the past 2 years, clean and sober, working construction jobs while secretly keeping watch over his little sister, who didn't even know he was alive. "I followed you home from the hospital sometimes," David confessed through tears. "Not to scare you, but to make sure you were safe. When I saw that man breaking into your house tonight, I knew I couldn't hide anymore. I couldn't let anything happen to you." The confrontation with their parents was devastating but necessary. Through tears and anger, the truth finally emerged. Their parents had been so ashamed of David's addiction that they'd chosen to bury him socially rather than fight for his recovery. They'd moved Marina away and constructed an elaborate lie to protect their family's reputation. "We thought we were protecting you from the pain," their mother sobbed. "We thought it would be easier if you believed he was at peace." Marina looked at her brother. No longer the broken homeless man she'd fed in an alley, but the guardian angel who had never stopped loving her. "The only thing that would have brought me peace," she said firmly, "was knowing my brother was alive and that our family chose love over shame." David moved into the guest room of Marina's house while he continued his recovery. Their Tuesday and Friday dinners became a sacred tradition, just like the meals she'd once brought him in that alley, except now they were sharing them as family. Sometimes the people we help in small moments become the heroes of our biggest battles. Marina's simple act of feeding a hungry stranger created a thread of connection that would ultimately save her life and reunite a family torn apart by shame and secrets. Their story proves that love never truly dies. It just waits for the right moment to reveal itself. If this story moved you and reminded you that every act of kindness creates invisible threads that connect us all, subscribe for more stories that touch hearts and change the way we see the world around us.